workshops. You made it through all 4. How many people have been to at least 1 workshop already? How many have been to 2? 3? Wow, that's great. And you're here for the 4th one. I'm sure you've heard this already. I haven't been to the other workshops. I'm sure you might have heard this from somebody in one of the previous workshops, that the most successful teams we saw last year were the ones that really put a lot of effort into getting the resources they could offered through these workshops, and of course talking to your mentors. Probably you just got an email, or will be soon getting an email from a mentor who has been assigned to you to help you now get your pitch together, get your plan together. That's sort of the next step after we wrap up this evening. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about resources. I am Chad Montry. I'm in the history department, which is in the College of Fine Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences. And I am the faculty fellow for that college. So maybe there's some people in here who I'm going to be mentoring. I've got 9 teams that are kind of related to the disciplines in that college. We've got other faculty fellows from other colleges, and they're sort of getting parceled out to people that make more sense for them. But I can talk to you about this more generally, this resources component to getting your idea challenge project in the best shape that it can be for you to be successful. That's ideally where we end up after all of this work. So you've seen this before, but let's just review it a little bit just to remind you all of the things that you've learned so far. The problem solution model is what we're trying to get you to think about for how to frame your idea challenge project. And so the first workshop that you attended, February 11th, was meant to help you sort of define what the problem is. Maybe you put an application in, or you had an application in the works, but you weren't quite sure what the problem might be, and hopefully you sort of fine-tuned that after thinking about these questions here, which were the main guiding questions for that particular workshop. Now from the problem, you probably talked a little bit about what is the opportunity for coming up with some kind of a solution. You discussed the ways in which people were affected by the problem. Maybe other people have already sort of tried to address the problem, and you wanted to figure out how you would distinguish yourself from them in the approach that you're going to take. And then sort of thought about, well, what is your team qualified to do in working on that problem? What's the opportunity presented by the people on your team, and maybe how would you build your team? Hopefully you've been working on building your team since that February 19th workshop. And then, of course, the last workshop you attended was about the solution, developing the solution that you're going to make to address the problem, and there will probably be the central part of the pitch that you get together for the preliminary round of the pitch competition and the final round if you make it through the preliminary round. After I get done this evening, shortly, 20, 30 minutes, we're going to have Steve Tello, who you've probably already met and heard from many times, do a rocket pitch for you, show you what a rocket pitch looks like, and his is a good one. Tonight, we're going to be talking about resources. Now that you know what you think your solution might be, what are the resources that you're going to have to make sure that you can develop a solution that's sustainable and one that you can really implement? So let's talk about what kinds of resources this might include. We want you to think about resources very broadly. It is probably funding. You need funding. That's part of why you're in this pitch competition, so that you can get some funding to implement a solution. But it's not just funding that you should be looking for. And in fact, your problem is probably multifaceted, and so your solution will be multifaceted, and so your resource needs will be multifaceted. So one of the things you might need is advice. And there are a lot of different kinds of advice that you would probably have to get. Advice that is very maybe discipline specific, maybe very technical, maybe advice about how things have been done before, why they succeeded, why they failed. But that's something that you would probably want to talk about as a team, and how would you get that advice? We're going to talk about the how in just a moment. Maybe you do need funding, and that might be for a plane ticket or some other thing that you need to buy that's expensive that you wouldn't want to pay for out of your pocket. So I can tell you in the advice and in the funding, airline ticket, last year we saw both of these actually be a very important part of 2 successful teams. The Lowell Sprouts team that won, I told them, I was mentoring them, that they should talk to Groundwork Lawrence, which is an organization in Lawrence which is already doing community gardens, which is what they wanted to do. And when they did that, and they talked to some people in Lowell, they learned a lot of things that helped them put their own particular project into shape. the Bright Future Generation team that Vanessa Columba put together. She wanted to provide mental health resources to youth in Rwanda. It's a far trip. It's a trip that's expensive to take, and so she used some funding to buy airline tickets. Maybe you need space. Maybe you need a lot of space like that. Maybe you need a little bit of space, but that's definitely something that you could be looking for. Maybe you need a thing. Maybe you need a tool, something like a 3D printer. I know one of the projects that was not successful last year was a student. He built a team to demonstrate why gun laws were not very helpful, arguing that you could make a gun out of plastic that couldn't be detected by a metal detector, that you could carry through anywhere that would be functional, and therefore there should be no gun laws, right? He didn't win, but he would have needed a 3D printer to actually carry through with the project that he had in mind. So from your own projects, and we're going to do a more sort of involved exercise in just a moment, where I'll get you thinking about your particular project, but just for a minute or two here, what other kind of resources do you think you're going to be needing, or what other resources can you imagine other teams would be needing if you were trying to get your problem together and get the solution connected and really carry out the solution that you propose? Okay, suppliers and manufacturers, especially if those of you are just building a prototype or something like that and you want it to go big, right? And you're going to need to find something of that nature. Well, how do you do this? How do you find these resources? How are you going to get them? And who are some of the partners, as you said in the back there, who might be helpful in acquiring those resources? Well, first of all, you can work with the DifferenceMaker Central folks. There's now an office. If you haven't seen it already, you should check it out. It's space, it's computers, it's whiteboards, it's very capable staff, and it's people who are also in touch with other people that you might want to be able to get a hold of at some point. Other students, maybe to build your team, but maybe not necessarily to be on your team, but to ask them maybe some advice or to have them help you do some of the work. And partnerships with local organizations like the Lowell Sprouts, learning from Groundwork Lawrence about how to do community gardens, or Lowell's United Teen Equality Center, UTEC, which is working with youth, doing a lot of intervention to deal with street violence and kids that having trouble staying in school. If you're already doing something like that, or you're trying to do something like that, check in with people that have tried to develop a solution to some of the problems that are, fairly perhaps common, but maybe you have your own sort of innovative approach and you want to test that out. So you should do some outreach to these kinds of folks. And alumni, and DifferenceMaker Central people can help you with this, but maybe you know already some UMass Lowell alumni, some people that are around, maybe some lawyers, who knows, people that are in manufacturing, and they can give you advice. Maybe they can point you in the right direction to make contacts. Maybe they even have some of the resources. What we also want you to be considering is a timeline. You would probably at least want to have something like this already, but you're going to refine that. You're going to fine-tune it, because demonstrating that you know when you're going to get your resources and then how you're going to use them shows us, or shows the judges in the pitch competition, that you can really do this and that it can be a sustainable project. And that's going to make you look much better against the other teams that are making a pitch if you can demonstrate that you have sort of the foresight to see how this is all going to work together. That you see this as a whole project, not just a bunch of little pieces that don't seem to be yet fully connected. Unusual, because these will actually be part of answering some other questions. Everybody's resources are pretty common. What kind of resources do you have?
Like technical expertise or legal advice.
Okay, so legal advice came up again. Technical. What kind of technical expertise do you have to locate?
Well, one of the people we had talked to was like maybe like a software engineer in the future, but not necessarily.
Okay, and not necessarily somebody that would be part of your team, but like an outside advisor of some kind. Okay. Did you add something? Thought I saw your hand up. What are sundries? Somebody had sundries on their list back there. Put in their covered wagon as they go out to the prairie and develop their project.
We're trying to supply the basic necessities, food and sundries, to
Okay.
And my son raised his tomato. Another word to use.
So you need those supplied in some kind of bulk form. You need a lot of them. Okay, so that's something you had to track down. Way of thinking about what is really the problem you're trying to solve. The problem is you want awareness and some kind of assistance to come to these students. But those are sort of two different problems, right? So how do you create stages of the solution? Alex up here is also talking about a prototype, right? So maybe you're not building the thing, or you're not starting to manufacture the thing like in quantity, but you're building a prototype. But Vanessa Columba got a plane ticket to go to Rwanda, which is essential to her developing the project, the larger project. So she didn't try to create the whole mental health service, organization. She just tried to get the things done at sort of a beginning initial level, and maybe that's what you do. But you have to be clear about that. That's something that you don't want to be all over the place. And Steve's going to show you how to do a pitch in just a moment. It's short. You really have to have it down, and it's probably even shorter when you're standing up in front of the judges doing it. It seems even shorter. Like you don't have a lot of time to say anything. So what is it you're trying to do? How convincing can you be? And if you're all over the place, it's not going to be very convincing, right? What about some of the things that you talked about that surprised you? Is there anything that came up that you thought, wow, I didn't realize that's something we need to do, and now this is really going to, slow us down, or we're really sort of like confused about where we could go to find this resource? Beta testers, they're all over the place. Probably not so hard. I don't know. This sounds good to me. It sounds like you've got a challenge, but you know how to at least create a list that sounds plausible for trying to meet that challenge, right? And that's, again, that's what you have to do. That's what all the teams that are going to be successful are going to have to do, is to be able to articulate very explicitly that you've recognized all of the sort of elements to it that might be problematic or challenging, but you're also ready to meet those challenges. And I like how you did that list. And you're not alone. Your team is not alone. We've got the people with the DifferenceMaker program that can help you, and they can put you in touch with alumni. We really want this to be about you connecting with people that have already been through UMass Lowell, or people that are associated with UMass Lowell and beyond. Maybe it is sort of getting you into the right office at the university. Maybe it's hooking you up with a lawyer or somebody else that might know something about how to do this, or whatever you're trying to do. Venture capital, somebody who's involved in venture capital. So think about that. Don't just try to figure it out for yourself. Think about, how can we go beyond our team? How can we go beyond our team, and maybe the first answers that come to our mind about how to solve the problem. So, one question would be, are you trying to do too much in a very short period of time? And would you be more likely to be successful if you break down your problem and your solution, and you do a little bit of it and present it as your project, and then later on, that's the core base for foundation for or even more grand sort of proposal in another setting? Because we've had teams doing that, and I don't know, all the various competitions that exist beyond just this one that teams have gone to. And what's the team that beat the Harvard team down in Florida, or whatever? Who was that?
On spec.
And that was what competition?
That was the International Association of Plastics Distributors.
All right, so this can just be a stepping stone toward you doing other competitions, right? And being successful. But all right, so I think what we're going to do is wrap it up there with looking at resources. This, just to remind you, is the things that are coming up. We've already gone through the workshops now. The next thing you need to be doing is getting ready for the rocket pitch coaching, which is going to happen on March 24th and 25th, depending on the time slot that you get assigned to. The main thing that will involve is you working together with the people on your team and working with the faculty fellow that gets assigned to you. They have probably, as I said, emailed you, checked your UMass Lowell email address, or whoever is the UMass Lowell email address contact that you put on your application, because we need to get moving in the next month, meeting with you probably at least 1, 2, maybe 3 times to help you out. We want to do as much as we can to make sure your pitch is strong. And then that will lead to submitting your idea challenge plan. And April 4th is a preliminary pitch off, at which point you will have had to develop your 3 to 5 minute pitch, and you will have submitted it as a PowerPoint to the staff, DifferenceMaker. And if you get through that, then you're on to the final pitch pitch off on April 15th. Although, if you don't get through that, there is also still a sort of a wild card chance. If you do a poster, you might end up being able to take the stage successfully, as did one team last year. Even though they didn't get through the preliminary, they came back as an audience favorite and they won. So that's still an option. And you probably have this information, but you need help, let us know. These are ways to do it. And of course, like I said, you probably have an email from a mentor. Now you have their email address. Email them too. So now Steve is going to show you a version of a rocket pitch and talk to you about the components and elements of a rocket pitch.
Talk a little bit about the rocket pitch. Are you nervous about that? How many people are nervous about the rocket pitch? Not too many, but it's okay to be nervous because you'll be standing up in front of 150 or so people, and they'll be making a decision about giving you $5,000 to move your venture forward. So a little nervousness is okay. But that can be addressed relatively easily by practice. And so we are going to give you a chance to practice, not tonight. Just tell this thing to talk. Come on. But we will give you a chance. Is it on the 24th and 25th, Holly Har? Is that correct? 24th and 25th, rocket pitch practice. You'll be sending them information on how to sign up. And also, you all should be hearing from the faculty mentors, the faculty fellows. So we broke up the 70-odd applications, and we divided them up against with the faculty fellows. We gave that to them on Monday, and we asked all of them to send you an email explaining when they might be available to meet with you. So the faculty fellows are there as a resource. They're expecting to hear from you. Some will do it in different ways. Some might have a workshop. Others might have you come by their office during office hours. But we'll definitely figure that out. We want to get you ready for this event. And I think the conversation that we just had with Professor Monti is really helpful. What the judges want to see are some specifics, right? So anybody can get up and give that typical class presentation where you kind of bluff your way through the work, right? And you say, oh yeah, there's this big problem with In fact, I just had this conversation with a professional this afternoon about how, oh yeah, we've got all sorts of people that talk about big societal problems. They talk about education problems and climate change. But to actually be able to narrow down and speak intelligently about a group of people, how many there are, what their needs are, how your solution is going to address the problem and the pain they feel, and then put together a request for money, that's hard. That's a lot harder than just saying, oh, I did some research on Google and this is the problem. And this last 3 weeks, and tonight included, that's what we've been trying to do, is push you a little bit, right, to sharpen your focus. Sharpen your focus. The teams that are focused and can answer the questions can present a clear picture of the problem and can help the judges understand, A, that their solution can address the problem, and B, that they have the knowledge or wherewithal to actually implement it. Those are the teams that will get funding. So that part's pretty straightforward. So in many respects, this is very much in your control. So there are a few deliverables, right? And those deliverables are due on the 28th. Not bad, huh? I paid attention the other day. Har and Holly were leading the meeting. They thought I was daydreaming, but I was paying attention. On the 28th, you'll need to have your idea plan. Do they have an idea plan?
I had sent out an email with all the dates.
Yes.
And then I had printed a document at the table up there. And it gave dates and deadlines. So everyone should have a copy of that.
Dates and deadlines. If you don't, you can get that here. So the deliverables are an idea plan, right? And an idea plan is probably a 2 to 3 page document where you talk about your plan, the problem that you're facing, your proposed solution, the opportunity associated, the problem, the opportunity, the solution, and the resources, right? Pretty simple. You have to do this work anyhow, right, in order to do the pitch. So basically we're having you do some homework. This is Brett putting the idea plan together. The idea plan also, I know Howard was talking about the e-portfolio. I mean, our goal with the e-portfolio is not to make extra work, but to give you a tool where you can prepare for the pitch by organizing the information on the website and everyone else can see it. So the idea plan should be sort of the details, the nuts and bolts, the data, the research, right, that you've done that justifies your venture. It can be longer than 2 pages. You don't want to make it too much longer. Things broadly. We run into this in the medical device incubator. Companies come in to pitch. In order to get into the medical device incubator, you have to fill out an application, and it's about 4 pages long, and then you have to give a presentation. And companies will come to us and say, we want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And I tell them, no, we're not signing a non-disclosure agreement. We don't want you to tell us anything proprietary at this point. This is an introduction. This is like a first date, right? This is like meeting someone for coffee. So as you think about what you put out there, you don't have to prove the science in your written materials, right? If you're going with a technical solution, provide a broader concept. So the deliverables are the idea plan, and the idea plan will prepare you for the rocket pitch, and we'll look at a rocket pitch in a minute, and a poster. And basically the poster, this is, we'll actually print these up in a larger size, but it basically, look at these categories: problem, opportunity, solution, resources. We try to keep this simple, right? You can reuse the material. You certainly don't want to just copy all these paragraphs out of here. You want to use bullets and images. A poster, I actually did research on posters and how entrepreneurs use visual posters to represent the data and information for investors. And it was interesting that certain things like having space attracts more attention than not having space. And having bolding and headlines helps to direct and guide people's attention. And having charts to represent information is very useful. So simple things you can do on the poster and you can do in your slides, which you might not necessarily do in your idea plan. But it's basically all the same information. So you want to sort of think about that stuff. And that's why we're sharing that. So we're going to look at the rocket pitch for the Team Tactile Feedback. They actually won, I think they won first prize in, was it first to market?
First to market, second prize, first to market.
Second prize in first to market. They won second? Grab a bite, beat them, huh? Wow, okay. So let me talk a little bit about the rocket pitch. The idea here is you're selling your idea, right? And this is a rocket pitch, which I'll do in a minute. I may have to find it. The problem is business travel. The problem is security. So this was actually done. I was in a workshop many years ago at Babson College. Before we started the entrepreneurship program, I spent a summer at Babson College. And one of the things we did was we had to learn how to do pitches and rocket pitches. And so that was probably around 2005, 2006. And so we were talking about airport security and getting through TSA and all that. And so we developed a product along those lines, which I'll talk about in a minute. The idea is the rocket pitch. We're going to give you 5 minutes. It was 3 minutes last year. We're going to give you 5 minutes to do the pitch. And for the preliminaries, you'll do the pitch, and then we'll have 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes set aside for Q&A with the judges. But it's still a relatively succinct delivery of your proposal. This I need to update, so it could be more than 3 slides. 5 slides at the most, though. So the rule of thumb that I use with slides, 5 minutes per slide. Right? So this is happening, like tomorrow I have to do a big presentation for the chancellor and vice chancellors and such. And I think I have 3 slides. I have 15 minutes. I have 3 slides. You don't necessarily have to follow that rule for this, but honestly, in 5 minutes, no more than 5 slides. You just won't get through them. You'll spend too much time talking about them, and you'll end up, because we'll cut you off. We have a timer in there, and at 5 minutes we're going to go, meh. Time's up. So you want to make sure you get through your material. The rocket pitch is pretty straightforward, right? We're staying with the same model. What is the problem you're addressing? What is the pain point for the person affected by the problem? You want that judge to feel the pain. Don't hurt them, really. But you do want them to understand that there's pain and that there's a reason that your solution is going to benefit the customer, the patient, or the person affected by it. Who is affected by the problem? So that's where you're going to get to demonstrate your knowledge of the opportunity, right? You're going to talk about who that specific group of people is that's affected by the problem, where they live, if you know how much money they make or how they've tried to address the problem. You'll talk about that. You're going to show the judges that you're knowledgeable about this situation. Then you'll talk about the opportunity, demonstrate your knowledge regarding the opportunity associated with the problem. That's more of that sort of research that you've done. How many people have gone out and talked to somebody affected by the problem you're addressing? A couple. So really, you should all do that. You all need to do that this week. You need to go out and talk to, I would say, 10 people affected by the problem. Because, yes.
So I'll tell you too, like, one of the reasons why you should do that is because the most effective pitch is going to be one that focuses on a specific person, that personalizes the problem. Like, if you're just saying millions of people are affected by this problem, I really don't care about millions of people. I care about the one person that you can tell me is a real person, and I
Yeah.
can see very, very clearly how the problem affects them and how your solution is going to help their life.
Right. So, and you can talk about a group of people in the singular person, right? So you can create a John, right? Here's John. John's affected by homelessness. John just came out of Mass General Hospital with no place to go. John's on the street. He doesn't have juice, a hairbrush, or toiletries. How's he going to get a job? That's a powerful story, right? That's more powerful than saying there are 10,000 people who are homeless in Massachusetts, and when they get discharged from the hospital, they have no place to go. Telling the story about John, or John and Jane and little Betty, that sort of tugs at the judge's heartstrings. It gets their attention. Gianni and I were at we were at Tufts University with Professor O'Donnell. Do any of you know Hannah Breckner? Hannah Breckner runs a website, bright young woman, 25 years old. She runs a website, The World Needs More Love Letters. And basically, she spoke for 45 minutes and had us in tears. And the piece that really got me was when so basically the idea was she was a lonely girl, right? She's sitting on the subway one day, she's feeling depressed in New York City, and she looks across and she sees this other girl that looks kind of lonely. And an old woman? Would you like to give this presentation, Professor O'Donnell? Just roll with it. So she saw a senior citizen sitting on the bench. And so she didn't know what to do. She was still a young kid. So she wrote a letter to her. Just sort of empathizing. It wasn't really a love letter. It was more like a compassion letter. And then the woman got up and left, so she just left the letter on the seat. So then she went on to write these